Welcome back to the world of Ivendaria. This is the first video in a series 2B about my original world building project. If you're new here and want to know more about who and what's behind this project, check out the introduction video linked above and below. In today's video, I'd like to give you a general overview of Ivendaria's geography. This basic knowledge about the land's layout and features will make it easier to follow along later videos in which I'm going to discuss Ivendaria's people and historical events in greater detail. Let's get started. In the natives' language, Ivendaria means Cradle of the Green River. The Green River, its official name Ivan, flows along the entire length of the nation. Forests, meadows, villages and cities thrive at the Ivan's shores. Without its life-giving waters, Ivendaria might just be a harsh rocky island in the middle of a huge and dangerous ocean. According to a popular rumor, the Green River's waters possess magical abilities. The river is said to enhance a person's lifespan if they bathe in it, and visitors from faraway lands attribute the natives' long lifespans to the Ivan's influence. The river is also said to be one of the main sources of the magic ever present in this land. But even if not a source, it at least contributes to a degree to the everlasting flow of magic perceptible by Ivendaria's mages. And even without any magic involved, the Ivan can certainly be considered Ivendaria's lifeblood, supplying the lands with water, the people with food, and acting as a route for travel and transportation. It has been providing and serving the Ivendarians for almost 9,000 years of written history now. Speaking of Ivendarians, an important distinction must be made between Ivendaria as a nation and the Ivendarean continent. The Ivendarean continent encompasses two nations, Ivendaria in the south, making up about 80% of the landmass, and Darthonis in the north, a comparatively small nation both in terms of inhabited area and population. Ivendaria as a nation encompasses its portion of the mainland as well as the large island Mangarth off its western coast, which is not attached to the continental plate but shares the nation's cultural heritage. Darthonis, while situated on the mainland mass, developed independently. The reason for the divide and separate development of the two nations lies in Ivendaria's north. About a third of the continent is covered in snow and ice, which even during the summers never fully melts. An everlasting storm prevents anyone from traveling beyond a certain point into a region called the ice fields. The same storm acts as the natural border between the nations of Ivendaria and Darthonis. For the longest time, neither nation was aware of each other due to the storm, and only via the sea they first came into contact. It is in the southern half of the ice fields where the Green River has its source, emerging from a deep underground wellspring. This is also the location of Ivendaria's oldest city, Canwell, which used to be the capital city. Following the river Ivan further to the south, travelers will find themselves in the middle of a harsh, rocky mountain landscape. The Skyreach Mountains dominate central Ivendaria. Most regions of Ivendaria have been mapped and thoroughly explored, but still, the Skyreach Mountains are mostly void of modern civilization. A few smaller villages and towns in their outskirts, as well as the current capital city Sarathias, make the only exceptions. The central portion of the mountains are inhabited exclusively by wildlife. The most impressive and dangerous creatures hunting among their peaks are greater dragons. West of the Skyreach Mountains, Ivendaria's north is dominated by dense forests. The further one travels to the south, the more the trees give way to wide green pastures and flower-filled meadows. The land flattens towards the western shoreline where two of Ivendaria's main ports lie, the city of West Point in the north and Mangarth in the center. The western lowlands as a whole play a central part in feeding the Ivendarean population. On the eastern slopes of the Skyreach Mountains lies dense and rough woodland that is mostly undeveloped, with the exception of a couple of smaller towns of miners, hunters, and woodworkers. Further towards the south lie the ruins of the ancient city Baldron, which was destroyed and abandoned approximately 500 years ago. Nature took over the ruins quickly, and dragons have made themselves at home in the overgrown towers that can still be seen from afar. Baldron used to have its own harbor, but since the city fell, the port has similarly fallen into disarray. Ivendaria's eastern shoreline has only a few very narrow beaches. It is instead dominated by steep cliffs that make it mostly impossible for larger ships to land there. In the far south of the Ivendarean mainland, the Skyreach Mountains shrink into a sheer, endless, impenetrable jungle. The Green River splits into several side arms and creates a swampy delta which is challenging but not impossible to live in. The southern swamps are an extremely fertile region, and the dangers lurking there are worth the risk for the harvests and mineral riches the earth provides. Finally, far off the western coast of the Ivendarean mainland lies the volcanic island Mangarth. Its name can be translated as the God's Garden. In the natives' eyes, Mangarth was, in the early days of the world, something akin to a playground for the gods, where plants, animals, and landscapes were created that can be found nowhere else on the mainland. Mangarth is known to have a particularly deadly wilderness, with some of Ivendaria's most poisonous and largest predators besides dragons roaming the jungles, alongside carnivorous plants. The island is also known for its unpredictable weather patterns and sprinkled with about a dozen active volcanoes. Most of the inhabitants of Mangarth reside in the island capital Panthil, which sits atop one of the highest northern cliffs. The rest are spread along the island's shoreline in small villages or in the central green valleys north and east of the dangerous jungles. The island's rugged appearance of black cliffs and huge rocks protruding from the earth-like spikes gave Mangarth the nickname Thorn Island. The sea separating it from the mainland is therefore also often referred to as Thorn Strait. In Ivendaria's northwest lies the Quiet Sea. The name is misleading, as its black, icy waters are often haunted by intense storms, just as the Thorn Strait feeding into it. In comparison, the Ember Ocean in the east has warmer, calmer waters. But in return, there are no harbors to safely access it anymore, and its seemingly peaceful depths are treacherous and stalked by large underwater predators. Ivendaria is a land with varied, beautiful, and dangerous landscapes, just as wild and independent as its inhabitants, no matter if natives or settlers. In the next video, I hope to tell you a little more about who the people of Ivendaria are and what differentiates them from each other. Also, let me know which of the Ivendarian regions, cities, or other locations mentioned in this video you want to know more about in the near future. I hope I was able to make you curious to learn more about Ivendaria, and could show you some things you might not have known yet, even if you've been following this project for a while already. And if you like what you saw and want to see more similar content, support my artworks, writing, and videos on Patreon. Thanks so much for watching, and see you soon in Ivendaria.